You know, every year I say the same thing to myself. I'm like, man, there's no way I'm drawing anything Halloween themed this year. I have zero inspiration, and also I barely even like the holiday. And yet, somehow, why, God? Yes, I am drawing something Halloween themed. Yes, it's a day late. Judge me as you will. Anyways, I was sorting through some old files and things for boring reasons, and I came across this ancient poster that I drew, and I actually still really like it. Like, I'm actually still in love with this poster, especially like the eye and the mouth and just the pose in general, and I'm especially proud that I did a background, as sucky as it is, because it was one of the first backgrounds I actually did back then. There are some things I don't like the horns, they're really thin, the wings, and the talons, but they don't even matter much to me. I still just really like my old poster. And this was my unplanned Halloween drawing from last year, actually, so it's kind of poetic justice to be doing it now at the last minute on Saturday afternoon, and it's pretty neat to see my improvement and change in style and taste over the last year, so let's dive right in. One of the problems with the original piece is how easily Scarlet blends into the sunset backdrop. So for this piece, I darkened it to almost full night, going for a larger contrast between Scarlet and her crown and the background. This helps your eye focus on the main point of the piece, Scarlet. Another thing I changed is the crown itself. I'm not sure the idea of the crown got across the previous time I drew it. Like, it was meant to be an incorporeal, floating crown hallucination thing, but I'm not sure that worked. So hopefully this time it's a bit more obvious what it's supposed to be. One of the things I like about this poster is the complexity in the drawing and line art, both in the old and new versions. It just helps give it an air of polish, I suppose. Even if a drawing isn't correctly proportioned or something like that, sometimes adding more details can help detract from that issue. Even so, I actually think the original has fabulous proportions, so I believe this is because I had a reference picture when I drew the original, so you can really see what a difference it makes. I struggled a bit at first with the posing and stuff, but it clicked for me pretty quickly. A couple of smaller things I changed were like making her spine spikier and scarier, or adding more earrings and changing the shape of her ear. Actually, jewelry is really hard for me in general, which makes characters like Scarlet and Chameleon really tough for me to draw, but I think I actually did okay here. So originally the ambiguous black splotches in the background were the silhouettes of the Skywing Palace, and they still are. I just adjusted the direction they tilted a little so that the buildings are leaning left and Scarlet is leaning right. This gives the whole piece a feel of discordant imbalance, which is exactly what I'm going for. I want the piece to feel like Scarlet is going completely against the rules. And the tail is hard every time around because it's very curvy and it goes behind all four legs, so it's hard to get it to look proper when it's interrupted by those legs. Overall, the line art was just as miserable as I remember a large canvas-sized line art job being. I have not missed line art during the recent phase of trying every art style excluding line art. Like, recently I've been doing a lot of smaller canvas-sized pieces, and I have not missed the difficult line art phase. Like, I today remembered how hard it is and why I don't do it very often. Anyways, I'm done complaining. I almost added a full moon in too because I really liked the feel of it, but the position that I wanted it in would have messed with the contrast I was working for with the crown, and that kind of ruined the whole composition for me, so I chucked that idea. Sorry, moon. The tiny ghosts were a maybe idea that I kind of threw out there, but I ended up keeping them because I liked the little splash of extra color. I did end up lowering the opacity on them though because I wanted the brightest thing in the poster to be Scarlet's floating crown so that it would really grab your eye and rest your attention. So, a few art tips to end this really short WHATSIFACE. First, a good way to help a drawing blend into its surroundings is to color the line art. For instance, see this example with this piece that I drew today, the black versus the dark red line art. You can really see how the dark red line art helps it seem softer and blend in with the whole piece better. Second, shading. When you're shading, you can do it in color. Look how the color of my shading affected the outcome of the piece. So this is the one with black, and this is the one with a red shading. And you can really see the difference, guys. Look at that crazy difference. So, when you're shading, pick a color that reflects the desired mood of your piece and use that to shade. It doesn't even have to be a dark shade of that color. The color I used to shade here was about halfway between black and white in shade, so it's not really that dark. I used red for the spooky, evil kind of theme. For a happy theme, I might use light blue, pink, or purple. Forest scenes get green, calm scenes, and the majority of other things I do get a variation of blue colored shading, because blue's a very stock color, which I just really like. And another side tip about shading, you really need to keep in mind what direction your light source is coming from. For instance, here when you see this during the speed paint, you can kind of see that slight instance for a minute or two where I had the moon that I was drawing up there, and you can see how I had lighting coming from two different sources, from the dying sunset and from the moon. And I did take that off, but you can still see how I was really paying attention to where my light sources were coming from and how that affected my shadows. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind that will help you do your shading. Overall, I'm really happy with how the redraw turned out. There was a good chunk of time where I wasn't really liking it much, but I was thinking that I'd actually like the original more. And it's kind of awkward when you're doing a redraw with drawing like a year later and you end up liking the original more. Like, have you made any progress if that's the case? But anyways, I ended up liking my new version more, so I'm reassured that I am in fact making progress and learning. So, I especially like the contrast I added in by making it really close to nighttime. It really helped Scarlet pop in this piece. And that about wraps up what's probably going to be my shortest What's Its Face ever. This poster is on my Redbubble, and there's a link to that in the description, so please go take a look. It's on my DeviantArt as well, and there will be links to that in the description again. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment about how your Halloween went. I hope everyone had a great time. I will see you guys next week with the 5K special, and everyone please have a wonderful week.